So the reason I say cyclical as well is we have here the World, and this is a fixed sign card, okay? This is something that's like very, very much set in stone. The four corners of it indicates like the zodiac signs, but the fixed signs are Aquarius, Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, and Taurus, which is you. You're one of the corners, you're one of the pillars of the fixed energy, and fixed signs are incredibly stubborn. You know yourself well, right? Some of you might be dealing with another fixed sign where the word fixed keeps coming up, and that's why I'm mentioning it, because like I said, the woman is fixated on the dishwasher that's foaming and leaking, and the man is fixated on this oven range that has electrical issues. And so a lot of the times, being a fixed sign is great. We're very dependable. When we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. If we say we're going to meet somebody at a certain time, no matter how sick we are that morning, God forbid, we still make it, okay? So we still make it there to meet them, because that's the nature of a fixed sign. We don't make promises lightly, and we don't break our promises, okay? And so there's virtue in being a fixed sign. But on the flip side of that, it can bring about rigidity, where we are so fixated on a specific idea, a way of thinking, wanting to control certain outcomes too. I feel coming up in the fixed energy, wanting a specific outcome. So for example, if you wake up in the morning, right, and you've already kind of figured out in your head how the day is going to play out, and then if one of your plans kind of deviates from whatever it is that you've already imagined the day to be, it can be a little bit, it can throw you for a loop, and it can be a lot more difficult for you to adapt to these changes. Okay, so I feel like there's an energy here about being a little bit too being too fixated on something that might, in the overall scheme of things, might not be very important, but in your mind, in that moment, because you're already caught up in the whirlwind of it, it seems important to you. And so try to avert your gaze, try to be a little bit more flexible, try to, really see things from another person's point of view, because once again, with this fixed energy with the World, she's encapsulated in this bubble, okay? That's her world. This is her entire world. Everybody else is on the outside of it, so she's not able to see things so much from the other person's perspective. So I feel like you might be doing this, or you might be dealing with another person that you feel encapsulates this energy, where the two of you are not able to see things from an outsider's perspective, because the world view is a little bit too closed off and a little bit too narrow, okay? So I feel like the energy might be a little bit stressful for this month of October. And okay, so first of all, what I'm seeing here is you're dealing with somebody. I feel like there's a lot of love here, okay? There's a lot of deep emotions, and this is what runs deep. And honestly, if the emotions were not there, if you didn't care about the other person, they wouldn't matter to you, right? Fixed signs are very, very clear about who matters to them and who really doesn't matter. So fixed signs have like a small circle, right? You could be a Leo too, but you still have this small circle. These are the people that you hold very, very dear to your heart. And then everybody else, you might care about them, but they don't have that weight, okay? They're not in that inner circle, in that inner sanctum. They're not privy to your ideas, your plans, your deepest, darkest secrets, okay? So I feel like that's just the nature of being a fixed sign. And so I feel like there's a situation here, you're dealing with somebody where there is a lot of love, there's a lot of caring, there's a lot of mutual respect, I'm sensing, a lot of trust. And because of that, you kind of, you put up with the situation, even though it's tenuous. But I feel like there's a person in your midst, somebody who's very generous, who's very, very kind. Deep down, they're very generous. I have here the Queen of Cups. This is someone who's got a very soft energy, okay? very loving, very caring. They would like give the shirt off their back for another person. They care about humanity as a whole. They care about everybody. They care about the homeless man that, you know, they pass by every day. They care about their kids. So like the way that they care and the way that they love, it can be a little bit depersonalized, but it's very universal. Okay? They want like what's best for everybody. But I also feel as if there's a sense of protection associated with this person. They're naked and vulnerable, like the woman in the picture, but she's got that, you know, shield, bubble wrap around her, where she's not able to let her feelings shown. So I feel like this is somebody who does not like to be taken advantage of. They might have been taken advantage of in the past, and over time, they've developed thick skin, you know. Over time, they learn not to be naive. They learn not to let the wrong people in. They learn to kind of wall up or build up those walls around themselves. And then as a result of it, I just feel like, you know, the love runs deep and is definitely there. But it might show up like it requires a lot of digging, a lot of unearthing in order to get to the essence, you know, and get to that tenderness within that person, okay? There's a situation here where I feel like, you know, crying over spilled milk, too much has been said. I also feel like somebody's protection, like the walls that they resurrect in order to protect them from harm, from being taken advantage of, from trusting other people, from getting close to other people, it's having like an adverse effect. Unintended side effect is driving people away, okay? I'm seeing this situation. It could be you or it could be the people that you're dealing with. I honestly read it both ways. I feel like there's a person here that might be, you know, they're so protective of their heart and their feelings. They're driving other people away. You know, you see these people walking away. And then I'm also sensing as well, like, you know, self-sabotage, okay? Sabotaging a good thing by injecting, like, negativity into it. And what I mean is we all have the tendency to do this, but I feel like earth signs tend to do it a little bit more, mainly because you earth signs, you're very hard on yourself. You expect a lot more from yourself. You're very perfectionistic. And I feel like, you know, this is a situation where, you know, it has the potential, but for whatever reason, somebody is just like, oh, it's never going to happen for me. Or, you know, oh, it's never going to be exactly the way that I want. And so in the process of like thinking in a negative way, I feel like it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I also feel like somebody who's very, very closed off. And then as a result of being closed off, they're driving people away. It's hard for people to be easy around them, to feel at ease around them, excuse me. And it's also hard for them to, you know, connect emotionally to other people. So I feel like somebody was given like multiple chances, you know. Let's do this, let's do that, let's not disappoint me, let's just, you know, pick up where we left off and things like that. And I feel like somebody was so guarded and just like overprotective of their emotions that they might have inadvertently like let, you know, really good people walk away because they're not able to be open and vulnerable. I have as well the Seven of Swords, and the Seven of Swords usually denotes a situation where I feel like there might have been trust issues, okay? And once again, the whole theme here is about not letting our guard down, not being able to trust somebody fully. And, you know, when it comes to being a fixed sign, I understand, you know, that it's also very, very hard. Like fixed signs have had usually a very, very rough situation in life early on in their childhood where they've had to grow really, really fast. They've had to grow up really fast. And so they've had to learn to be self-sufficient at a very young age. They've had a lot of responsibilities imposed upon them. And I also feel like there's a lot of guilt associated with you guys where I'm sensing like if you promise somebody that you're going to do something, and for whatever reason, you know, outside of your control, you can't deliver, you beat yourself up over it, okay? Instead of giving yourself a break, kind of like the Pisces, they're very much into giving themselves a break. Instead of taking that energy and just be like, you know what, I'm new at this, and all of these other external things happen outside of my control, so I really shouldn't blame myself. But you do, you wallow in it and you blame yourself. You're just like, if I were better, if I'd done things differently, if I timed it right, you beat yourself over it and you internalize that energy. And then I feel like it gets to the point where you just feel like you might not be good enough, okay? And so, once again, the Seven of Swords trust issue here. Because you expect so much of yourself, you also expect a lot of other people. And when people, for whatever reason, when they give themselves a break, when they cut themselves some slack, when they, for whatever reason, make promises and then they can't deliver, you automatically think that, like, oh, they didn't try hard enough, right? They didn't try hard enough, because if I tried, I always succeed, and I always, pull my weight, or I always, a man or a woman of my word. The other person, they didn't try hard enough. If it meant a lot to them, they would have tried. And so I feel like, somebody might be giving you a reason as to why they couldn't do what they said, or as to how some things unfolded. And instead of taking them at face value and just kind of like say, oh, those are acceptable reasons, I feel like you're a little bit sulky, and you're kind of like, well, if they really meant to do it, they should have tried harder. And so a lot of the times we need to be very, very careful about, being so hard on ourselves and setting impossible goals and just sort of like ideals for ourselves, but then also externalizing that energy and being equally hard on other people. So we can't really bring our hang-ups into relationships, right? And this is like all kinds of relationship, but I do feel there is a big element here about deep-rooted love, okay? Like somebody that you really care for. And I feel like there's a situation here where you just felt like if they tried harder, okay? And so it's like unfairly imposing really high expectations on another person. And I feel as if that might not be fair, okay? But either way, if you are dealing with the situation, there is an opportunity here for reconciliation, for coming together, for getting an opportunity to explain yourself. And I feel almost like, I hope you guys are watching this in the month of September, because I feel like it might address some of these issues that you might not have aired out in the open. Okay, these things that you might know about yourself, but you've never really talked about it. You've never really expressed it. You've never really delved deeper into exploring these things. Okay, so that's what I'm sensing here. And so just know that whoever you're dealing with, okay, there's a softness about them, but they have a thick outer shell. And then I'm also sensing, there's a generosity about them, okay? This is somebody who, like, when the going gets rough, they're still going to be there. They're still going to be skeptical. They're still going to, that balancing scale here is about fairness. It's about justice. It's about, rationality versus emotion. So I feel like you're with somebody who makes very, very solid, rational decisions. They're very kind, but they're not swayed by an emotional, appeal, okay? So they still need to kind of like sort out the facts, sort out the tangible, practical responsibilities, or even the facts that they can hear, taste, smell, touch before they act, okay? So I feel like no matter what, they're very kind. They are fair. They are fair. And then I'm also sensing as well, if there has been some type of a stall communication. We have here the Page of Swords, and with this energy, I'm just feeling like somebody's trying to reach out. Somebody's clearly, holding emotions, trying to reach out, trying to, reconnect in an emotional way. And this person's got their sword up, right? It's like lack of response, lack of communication, lack of ability to explain a situation. I'm also sensing as well with this card, it's about, truths coming to light. realizing the gravity of a situation, realizing who's no longer in the picture, realizing who's no longer around, and then realizing as well that, you know, those cups cannot be refilled. And so there's a situation here where you might feel the beginning of October as if there's an impasse, there's silence, there's lack of a response, okay? And a lot of the times, like I said, when the silence can be very deafening. It can be felt in a very eerie, I want to say, like in a gut, punching your gut type of a way, because it's powerful. Okay? So what is not said in the month of October actually carries more weight, actually, you know, evokes more of an emotional response than what is said. What is said could very well be just, you know, background noise, white noise, because it doesn't really mean anything. But that silence, I feel like, carries a lot of weight in the month of October at least, okay? So initially, there might be a situation where I feel like there's an impasse, there's lack of communication, there's like blockages when it comes to communication. And I feel like it worries somebody, okay? The lack of communication, the lack of reciprocity. It can feel very isolating, okay? Like that daunting, huge mountain that somebody has to overcome. And the word that I'm getting with this card when I shuffled it out was, it's like, it's a situation where because of the silence, because of lack of information, we tend to project, right? We tend to think about worst case scenarios. And I know it's funny, but I was thinking about this, and I was just thinking that, you know how sometimes you're seeing somebody new, or your friend is, and your friend who's like, you know, very sweet and cute and just innocent, and you know, he or she, let's just say she, okay, because I've seen it happen. And she texts a new person that, you know, she's dating, and she's like, oh, do you want to grab coffee, or do you want to meet me for lunch or whatever? And the other person doesn't respond. And then she's thinking, like, you know, rather than thinking, you know, rationally, he's busy, or, you know, he's at work right now, he'll probably respond to me in a few hours, or, you know, maybe he's not that into me. She's probably thinking like, oh, he's not responding to me because, you know, he's got maybe in a very terrible car accident, for example. And so we let our imagination run wild, okay? We kind of like need to rein those wild thoughts in, mainly because I feel like it's a daunting situation. You're not really sure what you can do. And funnily enough, this is the same energy I was picking up for Capricorns, but Capricorns have been dealing with this energy, you know, for the past 2 years because they have their Saturn transit. And so I feel like they're the master right now. Capricorns are in a really, really good place because they're the master of letting go. They're the master of starting over. Okay, they've already learned their karmic lessons. I feel for you guys, it's possibly touching you guys right now, where you are starting to understand how your emotional responses or how your emotional ways of doing, of coping, might create a rift or a barrier between you and another person, and how we kind of have to, you know, let those walls come down, okay? It's almost like that mountain, that cliff, that emotional rift between you and another person, because, you know, the Four of Pentacles is the miser. He clings on to his financial resources, but also he's very self-protective. He doesn't want to get hurt. He doesn't want to feel naked and vulnerable without protection. He wants, you know, to cling on to things for strength, for protection, for, you know, whatever life throws at him, for a rainy day. He saves up for a rainy day. He can tend to hoard a little bit. And so there is a situation here where I feel like there's an emotional rift between you and another person. And I feel like there might be lack of communication. And, you know, once again, this reading goes vice versa, okay? In terms of your advice here, there is going to be a situation where there's a coming back together. And it's going to happen very, very, very fast. You might feel that it's very slow because with this Pentacle suit, things are built over time. But I feel like with this Knight of Swords energy, it's happening very, very swiftly and very quickly. And so there might be like a standstill, a stalemate, or like lack of communication for, what feels like a really long time. But then when the floodgates open, it opens really, really fast, and there will be, a lot more explanation. And so what I do feel, this is kind of like my card for the stranger at your doorstep, okay? It's like somebody coming in and wanting to communicate, wanting to speak. They might come to your office, they might come to your house. If it's a coworker, they might come to your office. If it's like a significant other or somebody that you have that emotional connection with, they're coming to your house. It's like physical, like a physical manifestation of a person. They're coming in with that visitation, and there's an opportunity to talk face to face. If in the past communication has been, electronic, and especially we are in a digital age, and a lot of things taken out of context in a text message or in an email or in a, messaging thing, it can be misconstrued because we're not really hearing the tone, and we're not seeing the face, the emotions and the body language and the facial expressions and the micro expressions associated with that communication. And things might get misconstrued, but I feel like there's a situation here where you have a way to see the other person face to face and really discuss and really, spend the time and spend the energy to really hash things out, okay? So I definitely feel a breaking open of that floodgate, and communication starts to flow again. I'm also sensing as well with this card, this is the Hanged Man. We're seeing it from, from a different perspective. And the words that I'm getting when I shuffled out this card was, there's something on your mind, and you feel by acting on it or by saying it or by, speaking it out loud, you feel like there might be judgment, there might be censorship. So you kind of held it in, okay? You don't want to go against the crowd. You don't want to, be provocative. You don't want to be in this situation where you're kind of like burned at the stake. It's like saying something and then having the masses disagree with you, and all of a sudden we feel censored, or we feel like the odd man out, or we feel like we're not really fitting in. So there's a situation here that is calling for going out on a limb, okay? It can feel very uncomfortable because this is a very vulnerable situation, okay? And whatever it is that you're dealing with for this month, you have to learn to be vulnerable in the right context, because I feel like, first of all, the beginning of the month, you're shying away from it. You still have your protective bubble up. And then, the feelings get repressed, just pressed down. And then this is like being burned at the stake. This is a very uncomfortable situation. You're exposed, you're vulnerable, you're strapped up, and you're tied in. And I feel like there's an audience even. So it's a situation that's really telling you, you either can go out on a limb here, or you can wait until the end of the month and you can go out on a limb here. It's going to be a little bit more uncomfortable. And once you do that, however, you're going to start to realize that whoever you're dealing with, you're in a place of safety with them. There's no judgment here. This is like trust and stability that has been built up over a very long period of time, okay? It doesn't happen overnight. It's like, the duration of a relationship, a friendship, knowing somebody. It's give and take. It's built up over time. And it requires a lot of experiences that can make this situation. So you're going to realize that you're in very, very good hands, that whoever you're dealing with, they're not judging you. They know who you are. They've been around the block with you. They've been through hell and back with you. And so they're not going to, cast judgment upon you. They're not going to shut you down when you're ready to be open and vulnerable with them. They're going to open up their door They're going to open up this archway. They're going to let you in and, you know, not just have a conversation like a, what is that word? Like a superficial conversation in the doorway or in the hallway or, you know, on the porch. They're going to invite you into the fold so that you can have a proper conversation. Okay? Pour you some tea, make you some coffee, so that it's almost like we're going to sit here and drink coffee and drink tea until we hash this out. Because this has been, you know, a long time coming. And so I feel like there's a situation here where there is closure, there is reconciliation, and you're going to realize that, you know, all your fears about opening up, being vulnerable, they were unfounded because, you know, we bring all of our hang-ups into relationships. And it's really important to address them when we're an individual rather than bringing that into a relationship with another person. So I feel like you're going to realize there might have been some things, some conditionings, some ways of doing, some patterns, some habits that might not be conducive to, you know, creating a harmonious relationship. And it could be work, it could be with a significant other. But I definitely feel the walls are closing down or coming down, which is great. And you're going to realize you're in a space of safety, okay? And so I see fast and swift communication. It's going to get heated, but I feel like it needs to be hashed out. And I feel like there will be a situation where, you know, somebody wants a lot more of your attention, a lot more of your time. They're going to make it very clear, okay? So this is a card about cutting through the riffraff, cutting through the confusion. This is somebody who comes in very, very, very fast, no nonsense. Fixed signs are very no nonsense, okay? It's almost like you guys operate with an agenda. You kind of have checklists, okay? Because, you know, once again, you're very perfectionistic. You're hard on yourself. You want to get as many things done as you have promised or as you are capable of. And so you're dealing with someone who's just like-minded, who's just, you know, very like type A, checklist oriented, you know, coming in with an agenda. Let's talk about all of these things. Let's splice through the confusion. Let's be very, very clear. Let's not talk out of the other side of our mouth, and let's just, you know, be on the same page, okay? They're wanting to be on the same page. They've wanted this communication for quite some time. And at the end of the day, it's going to be, you know, a truce. Okay, give and take, an equal exchange. No one is talking while the other person is forced to listen. It's going to be an equal give and take and an equal opportunity for, like, you know, back and forth type of communication to really hash some things out, okay? Aside from that, I feel like there's a situation here that needs to be fixed. And I feel that you need to let your walls down. And then I'm also sensing as if... you know, the first half of the month, I'm not going to lie, I feel like it's a little bit uncomfortable. And then the second half is where, you know, things, the floodgate starts to open. Things are going to flow again, and you're not going to feel like you're beating yourself up, you know, against a brick wall where things aren't moving, where things are stagnant. Things are going to start moving, okay? Let me see if there is anything else for you. I took some notes earlier when I was shuffling out the cards. With this card, I'm seeing here, you know, all my cards are on the table. Okay, revelation. It's like, I'll show you mine, you show me yours. And I feel like all those pentacles, it just denotes to me, like, our cards are on the table. So whoever it is that's coming to your doorstep, I feel like they're saying, here, listen, let's talk, okay? And then, I'm seeing this is an aggressive, but a really good person. This is somebody that, you know, deserves the time of day and the benefit of the doubt.